Okay, we are live. It's probably a good 10 minutes yet before people are due to log on, so we'll basically just sit here and wait and see what happens and wait until people come along. Um, the chat is enabled, so you can ask questions via the chat. Um, I think I think there'll be few enough people this time that we can leave the microphones enabled. I think most of the people logging on, I do know a little bit, so I know they're not trolls or anything. Uh, but yeah, we'll see how we go there. And I'll see you all again in about 9 minutes. In the meantime, you can watch me work. Okay, thanks. It is now 2:30, and it doesn't appear like anyone has logged on yet. So we'll just keep waiting and see what happens. I do know of about a dozen people that said they are coming, so hopefully they will be here soon. We're just waiting for more people to arrive. I did have promises from 12 people that they would come. Whether they're going to show or not, we'll see, I guess. It is 2:36. I'll give it until 1:45, but I don't think there's much point here sitting here waiting beyond that, really, when I could be being more productive. I guess we shall see what happens. Oh, there's Jenny. Um, okay, welcome, Jenny. There is well, you found the chat, so I'll just give it a few more minutes and see if anyone else pops in. I did have promises from bookings from about 12 people. I'll fix that link. Oh, come on. Come on. Hi there. How you going? I do have, as I was just saying to Jenny, we do have a total of 12 big bookings. Not everyone booked, via the Brent site. So I will give it a few more minutes because I think some of those people were interstate, and people sometimes get a bit confused with the time zones and things. Jenny was just saying the Eventbrite link was broken, but it seems to be working again now, so that's good. Um, but yeah, the chat is enabled, so if you want to ask any questions, you can. Um, I think, yeah, all your microphones are muted for the simple reason that I was thinking about leaving them open, but the risk of that is that a troll jumps on and, really tries and disrupt things. So I've left microphones muted. But so just post any questions or comments you have in the chat, and I will see them. Of course, I don't mind people disagreeing, but there's a difference between, someone who disagrees and the troll who actively tries and disrupt things. So I mean, Jenny brought up some questions about our drug policies. So maybe I'll give just a brief introduction, and I will go into that a little bit for a couple of minutes and try and make that clear. As you're aware, my name is Chris Schmidt. I am the TNL New Liberals candidate for the seat of Sturt in South Australia. Sturt is a very safe Liberal seat. It probably requires, like Labor would require a swing of about 14% on a two-party preferred basis to win it. And yep, I'll answer you in a second, Jenny. And so it will be a tough gig, but the basis of, I guess this is one of the reasons why we chose the name Liberal, TNL, the New Liberals, and because there are a lot of people that vote for the Liberal Party simply because there isn't a Liberal Party. You know, they really want a truly Liberal Party, like, you know, in the traditional meaning of the word, meaning socially progressive. And so that is why we chose safe Liberal seats, because that was the advice given us by electoral experts, that we actually have more chance in winning in those seats. And also, I think this election, the priority is getting the LNP out. And we were formed 2 years ago, but really we're only 12 months old. You know, getting our candidates up, and for a new party to run in too many seats is very difficult. To really take on Stevens in Sturt, I reckon it will cost us easy 80 grand, and the party doesn't have that money, so I've got to come up with it myself. So I think, I think a Liberal Party will have a chance of catching those disaffected LNP voters that aren't happy with the direction the LNP has taken. If you go back to the time of Fraser, you might remember, okay, Fraser did a very bad thing, with the dismissal and everything, but everyone expected him to be a far-right conservative, and he wasn't. He continued with just about every single one of Whitlam's reforms and introduced more himself. He was a true small L Liberal. And he actually, people say, oh, he went further left after he left politics. He didn't. He's always been where he was. For you remember his strong opposition to apartheid, in developing sanctions, boycott of the Moscow Olympics, his stance on refugees and so on. He was a real, true small L Liberal. And that is what a lot of Liberal voters are looking for. And that is why we believe in safe Liberal seats we have a chance. Obviously, the difficulty being money, in that we don't have the backing that the LNP does. And, I've been a carer for the last 2 years, a full-time carer on a carer's pension, so I don't have tens of thousands of dollars in the bank. Okay, now, we might go into some of these questions. We do support the legalization of cannabis for private use. We actually support the legalization of decriminalization of all drugs for private use. Sorry, I'm just being messaged by an attendee that's running late. But the difficulty is that each state actually has its own laws. Like, whether cannabis can be used in South Australia is governed by state law, not federal law. and it's actually constitutionally we can't interfere. What we can do is put pressure on the state government to change their policy and to enable cannabis to be used for private use. I mean, addiction, and even if you go on to other drugs, even like heroin, LSD, the whole lot, addiction is not a criminal issue, or shouldn't be. Addiction is an illness. And they found overseas in places like the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, that by decriminalizing drugs, it actually reduces the use. And what they found, unlike Portugal, decriminalized all drugs, and for the next 3 years, they did not have one death from overdoses, not one, simply because things were like safe shooting galleries and so on were opened up where people could go, and then the thing is with those galleries they are also staffed by medical staff who can give advice and support and referral to drug rehab clinics and advice on getting clean, besides just giving a safe place to shoot up. And it worked. It really did work. And people, and with marijuana, I do agree with the argument that it's actually no more dangerous than alcohol. Now, how will we do this in a practical basis? Because we can't tell South Australia to change its law. Unfortunately, we'd like to, but we can't. We can incentivize. Hang on a second. Sorry, somebody's just messaging me. Sorry, I've just somebody's messaging me trying to get in. So we will incentivize the states to change the law. And we can do this a number of ways. We can, perhaps make some funding conditional on states passing legislation. Of course, you'd have to be very careful there, and that's not our policy yet, but these are things that when it comes to the practical nitty-gritty of how to do it, these are things we can look at. But for example, you wouldn't want to say to a state, no, we're not going to fund your hospitals unless you change the marijuana legislation. Yes, a federal bill to change the federal laws. Definitely, we would support a federal. Any of our members in Parliament would support a federal bill, but it's going to have limited impact on the states. That comes into point because there are federal laws as well. And if the federal laws were changed, then obviously that'll increase the pressure on the states to change the state law. But we would definitely support that. I mean, I'm seriously, we are looking at, so generally TNL's policy is to leave the choice of preferences up to its candidates, and because I don't know who is running in Sturts yet, because not all the candidates have been announced, I haven't chosen preferences, apart from the fact that we always put the LNP last. Except possibly for One Nation if they've got a candidate running or Clive Palmer. And Clive Palmer and One Nation are pushing it in SA. They will have candidates in Sturt. Clive has already leaflet boxed the whole electorate. Um, Craig Kelly, with a picture of Craig Kelly and our next PM, which is never going to happen. But anyway, so yeah, so that is fair enough. I'm just reading the questions. I'm not sure. Somebody asked a question: what sort of action can we expect from a Labor federal ICAC on COVID mismanagement? To be honest, to be honest, that is something that I think I'd really have to read the legislation to give a definitive answer on. But my knowledge of the Labor ICAC is, while they say it's retrospective, it's only retrospective in cases of serious and serious misconduct. And so my gut feeling is they would do little. My personal opinion is that yes, COVID has been mismanaged. People have been allowed to die, and with the reopening of the borders and the easings of the restrictions, things weren't done right. The vaccines weren't rolled out correctly. The rat tests haven't been rolled out correctly. Already a rat test is pretty well impossible to get in Adelaide, and they've only been out about a week. Only in chemists a week, available for concession card holders, and pretty well already you can't get them. So there is mismanagement, and to me, that is definitely professional misconduct. It mightn't be exactly a criminal offence under any laws, but our new Liberals ICAC does cover professional misconduct. You look at because our theory is that slavery was legal. They're locking the Jews up and putting them in gas chambers. That was legal in the context of the country at the time that it happened. That it was law. It was legal. And so on. So legality has more to do with control than what is right and wrong often. And so, our ICAC will be able to cover it, and will be able to actually lock people up as a result of their misconduct. And I'm just checking for any more questions. I don't think anyone's posted any other questions at the moment. So that's covered those questions. I think the big. I know Jenny is in Adelaide. I think. No, professional misconduct is not in a Labor ICAC because it's not criminal. It's a civil matter, and Labor's ICAC doesn't cover it. The difference between TNL's ICAC and Labor's ICAC, there are several. TNL does cover all the public service, judges, AFP, the courts, everything, everything federal. The federal courts, obviously the state courts are covered by the state ICACs in some cases, not in every state. South Australia's ICAC has just been gutted with the help of the Labor Party. So that's why I would not trust the Labor Party, because what they've done at a state level is the opposite of what they say they will do at a federal level. So the two don't match. But the main difference is we are fully retrospective. It covers the whole sector. And because of that, because you can't have a situation, for example, imagine Dutton before the ICAC, or the current Home Affairs Minister Andrews. It's like, would you like investigating your boss? If he was referred to the AFP for the prosecution, he'd have a lot of friends in the AFP, and he was their boss, and so. Yeah, I mean, they might do a good job, but there is that potential for conflict there. So our ICAC bypasses all that, which Labor doesn't. Investigations won't be referred to the police. The ICAC will be run by a separate board of 7 Australians beyond repute. They cannot have any ties to any political party. They cannot be in government. It could be people chosen simply because people like, Grace Tame. She's an Australian who people trust. People with a good reputation will be chosen for the board. And they will employ their own investigators, which are on fixed-term contracts so that they can't form relationships with parliamentarians and so on that they investigate, or so it's less likely. Then there will be a separate Chapter 3 ICAC court that the investigations where investigations are founded, that there's on the balance of probabilities, a case to be answered, they will be referred to the ICAC court for prosecution, which employ their own prosecutors and own judges, once again on fixed-term contracts. Yeah, we do actually have to have comparison infographic. I'll put it on it is on my Twitter, but later on I'll put it up again. And so check out my Twitter at CP Schmidt 29. Just probably give me a few hours and I'll put it up. And so there is infant, and so we don't go through any of the existing mechanisms which could potentially be corrupt. We know that there's been a lot of Liberal appointees to the federal court. We know the High Court had completely Liberal appointees, and every single lawyer I come across has stories about how they can't believe what decision of the High Court has made. They just basically go along with what the Liberal Court have made. And I don't know a lawyer or I've never spoken to a lawyer that isn't disgusted with the High Court. I mean, some of its decisions on refugees have been very, very questionable. I'm just checking once again for questions. Yeah. We do have a couple of people coming in yet. Yeah, I think that comment that every single issue you care about requires a radical takedown of corruption. I think it really is key, and I think our ICAC is one of our most important, if not the most important policy. And we've said we are running something like I think we're up to 7 candidates in New South Wales. There's 2 in Queensland, one currently in Victoria, and just me in South Australia. And they're all in safe Liberal seats, so potentially all of them could win. Now, realistically, that's not going to happen. But I really strongly believe, by the way some campaigns are going, that we'll get 3 or 4, which means we will hold the balance of power. Just 3 seats is enough to hold the balance of power, and with that, we can achieve major things with Labor, and holding them to account and basically forcing them to do stuff. Now, one thing we have said, and we have said all along, is that if it comes to forming a minority government, which is highly likely, I don't think Labor will win outright. Sorry, the opinion polls were wrong last time, and I think they're wrong again. Um, uh, if it comes to a minority government, we will support Labor to form government on one condition: they pass our ICAP legislation. That is the condition. And let's face it, 70-80% of Australians want an ICAP. Even most Conservative voters want an ICAP. I get Liberal voters tell me that all the time, that they're considering not voting Liberal for the first time simply because of all the corruption. And they'll say to me, "Sorry, Chris, we don't agree with your policies, but we're actually considering voting for you because of this one issue." And so they will agree to our demands. If they don't, we're quite prepared to go back to elections, and which means Labor will go back to the electorate as the party that prevented an ICAC, and we will win that election, not only with 3 seats, but as a landslide. I mean, most Australians want an ICAC. It really is that big an issue. I think. Just a bit about my background is that, yeah, we've got a couple more people coming in, messaging me. Just a bit about my good background is that I've been a human rights and refugee activist probably for some 10 years now. I come from mostly a sales and marketing background. I completed senior but did not complete university. I went back to university later. I didn't go, I didn't get accepted into the course I wanted as first preference, but I could have gone to uni. But the major thing that stopped me was that even though there wasn't tax yet, was cost. That I was living in Toowoomba. The courses I wanted to do weren't available at local uni. I would have had to move to Brisbane. I would have had to board at the uni or get a flat. It was just too expensive. I couldn't afford it. My parents couldn't afford it. My parents couldn't afford to subsidise it. So university, even back in 1984, wasn't an option for me. And so I went back later as a mature age student and got a business degree majoring in marketing. I've been working in marketing sales, had my own business, you know, And for the last year, 10 years, I've basically been working full-time as a human rights activist and part-time in a small marketing business with my own clients. And I basically just, if I need money, I went and got clients. And that was basically it. And I lived off that. I provided a complete solution. I built websites. I don't do that myself. I had people that work with me. I do social media, communications, a whole lot, and that's how I survived. But it's only been part time, and everything I earned went back into my advocacy work. For the last 2 years, I've been a full-time carer, partly for my sister and also for my mother. I'm still a carer for my mother. My sister died 12 months ago of cancer, just over 12 months ago now. Was 12 months ago at the end of November. But so, I'm not a typical Liberal politician. I don't have money coming out of the ears. I'm from the wrong side of the tracks. Um, I, I'm not, I haven't got a silver spoon in my mouth. I don't like suits. I know that if I become a politician, I will have to wear one more often. I take any, no problem. It, yeah. So I I went to an event recently. Like we do have a campaign office in Adelaide, and that's in Dulwich Hill in Adelaide, which is sort of in the middle of the rich part of the Sturt electorate. And I have a campaign office and a service office, and the company that runs the service offices, they had uh, afternoon tea for Melbourne Cup Day last year, and they invited everyone from the offices. And there's a lot of going up Dulwich at the street. There's lots of lot of cafes, and it's a really trendy sort of area, a lot of trendy shops, and they invited all the local business people, and was dressed up. That was the first time I wore a suit since my grandmother's funeral, which was 2008. I had to buy a new one just for that, because the old one, still in the cupboard, didn't fit. But yeah, so that's me, and I want these. I mean, obviously, big things start small. I want to do these Q&As on a regular basis as a way of engaging with people in my electorate. I do have a disability with a severe back problem. I can't walk more than about 100 metres without bad pain. I can't stand at shopping centres. I can't go door knocking, any of that sort of thing. I mean, my volunteers can and will and do. But yeah, as a way of me engaging with the people in my electorate, we will be doing a real town hall. I'm holding off, even though we can do it now. The restrictions have been eased enough that we can do it. While there are still so many infections, I'm just hesitant to do it. I just don't think it's quite right. So I'm holding off doing a real town hall at the moment, and just doing these quick Q&As. We'll do one of them a fortnight. Sorry, I'm just messaging someone. Yeah, we will be doing one of these once a fortnight. So what you can do is come back on the for the next one, which will be the 12th of February and bring your friends. And, that will be how it grows. Thanks, Tim. Um, yeah, so Tim Jones has just jumped on. He's been quite a strong supporter of TNL on Twitter. So far, Tim, we've discussed people have had questions about our drug policies and also the ICAC. So I'm putting an ICAC up, an infographic up later in the day, and to help people. Yeah, and Barry Steele has just jumped on. Now, Barry is our candidate for McKellar in Sydney. And McKellar is probably a similar, it's a safe Liberal seat once again. Who is it? I think it's Felinsky and McKellar. Barry can correct me there if I'm wrong. But it's similar. It's a safe Liberal seat. The environmental movement is very strong in McKellar, probably stronger than in Sturt. But I guess the interesting thing about Sturt, I've been involved in Amnesty International for many years, and in Amnesty we have I don't know, I guess a model that we call persuading the persuadables. Basically, it's based on the theory that when you're talking about social issues, about 20% of Australians are sold out and agree with you. Okay, so say I'm a refugee advocate. 20% of Australians are completely sold out to agreeing with me. About 10 to 20% think you're an idiot. And about 60 to 70% are in neither camp. They really haven't made their mind up yet. And that's the doctrine of the persuadables. So you need to focus on the 60 to 70%, the people you can be persuaded. It's a waste of time talking to the converted. It's a waste of time talking to the 10 to 20%. Now, transferring that over to our TNL campaign, that includes Labor diehards. You get nowhere talking to them. I've tried, you get absolutely nowhere. They might go, oh yeah, we agree with you. The Labor Party isn't what it used to be. I'll still vote Labor to the day I die. And you get a distinct impression that if Albany turned into Adolf Hitler, they'd still support him because they've always supported Labor. Labor diehards are so absolutely loyal to the point of fault. So that is, so you go into that 60%, and we've always found that with Amnesty, that Sturt is one electorate where we always have success, where there's a lot of persuadables. But it's also true that because now Australia's averaging income is 65,000. Adelaide's average income is 75,000. Sturt's average income is about 110,000, and that's the average. Okay, so obviously there's a lot of people lower and a lot of people that are way above that. And let me tell you now, I have not seen, even on Brisbane and the Gold Coast, even on the Gold Coast, I have not seen bigger, posher mansions than you see in the Sturt electorate. They are massive, huge. But it's mostly old money. they're 110 years old. A lot of the homes, or even more, 150. Some of them. It's mostly old money, and the average age in the electorate is actually way above the average, way above the Adelaide average. So while they are more traditionally small L Liberal, and a lot of them can remember Menzies, um, they they are still conservative to the extent they don't take to new ideas easily. So still, I'm at the stage where I'm banging my head on a brick wall, and COVID doesn't help, obviously. The fact that we've been in and out of restrictions and rules keep changing, it doesn't help. But can't be helped. Um, but I'm still at the stage where I'm banging my head against the brick wall. And this Q&A is an example. We've had 4 participants. A couple had to go already, and that's typical. I get them in dribs and drabs. But that's why I say if we do it every fortnight, people come back, bring their friends. Over time, it will get bigger. Yeah, yeah. I mean, same is true of Liberal Party voters. Rusted on ones, they're very hard to convince, and I think Labor are worse than Liberals. But it is also true of Liberals. Um, but I think the key is don't argue with them, and just keep getting your message out there. There's a guy on Twitter, his first name is Pablo. I forget his full Twitter, and he's always been very critical of us. And um, to the extent that I was considering actually blocking him. Um, but I thought he's not a troll. Like, he doesn't behave like a troll. He expressed concern. He's just like, I don't trust TNL. I can't trust them. How can you trust someone with Liberal in their name? But by getting our message out there, 3 times lately he's messaged me. You sold me, Chris. You sold me. I am now a TNL supporter. And the other day he wrote to me and said, Chris, how do I join? I've got no money. I said, I'll pay your membership.